Yes, well, it's 7 o'clock. That means we are starting our EAA Special Interest Group meeting, and I welcome everyone. I see that there are several new participants. We welcome you. And my name is Carlos Maria Arieu. I am kind of the moderator of the group. And the idea of this group is coming together and sharing our knowledge about EAA, asking questions, learning from each other, and helping each other to enjoy more, observing not only through our eyes with an eyepiece, but through a laptop, through a monitor that allows us to see much deeper and many more details than our eyes alone can spot, especially when we cannot go every weekend to the dark side and enjoy visual under those conditions. So most of us can only stay at home and use our backyard, but that doesn't stop you if you want to watch and keep on observing and learning. And EAA is a technique that allows us to do that. So that's what we talk about. And everyone is welcome to share their experiences, their questions, their stages, what they are planning on doing. And I started about a year ago. And after a lot of trial and error, I was able to get a humble rig and get the pictures I was looking for. And usually when you start with EAA, then you said, oh, I would like to keep those pictures and share them with someone else and show where I'm looking. And you usually incur a little bit into AP because you get the pictures and then you try to post-process them. And then it turns kind into a little bit of AP. So everything is mixed together. We don't have a strict border or limit here like sometimes they have in, for example, in Cloudy Nights, when you cannot even mention post-processing in EA because they will kick you and send you to the AP forum. So here we can talk a little bit more about that. And usually post-process the picture. So even though it's called AP, I think it's a mix of everything, and everything is welcome. So we begin with the AA, and then you go a little bit into AP, and the AP people usually spend a lot of time doing that, and they are the ones that can give us advice on that. But we can go on both sides, so and keep on observing and enjoying ourselves. So if there's anyone that would like to present themselves and tell us about what your goals are, what stage of EAA you are. If you're just beginning, you're super welcome to ask any questions, any doubts you have. We can provide you with the advice that everything that we know, so that we can get you on the ground and running. And there is no presenter in this meeting. So it's like Liz said, a very formal and structured meeting, and everyone can participate. So there's no presenter, there's no specified schedule to follow nor theme. So everyone is welcome to ask and share and participate. So if everyone would like to present themselves, you're welcome to start.
Carlos, I don't know if you saw, there's a comment from Vicky Baltz in the chat there.
I can see. Now I see it, yes.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Vicky, is Carl your husband, or is that just a coincidence of last name?
My name is, I guess.
Yes, okay. I figured it's not a very common name. Welcome, Vicky, and tell Carl I said hi.
Okay. Bought another telescope in the gate of being negative for me. I'm like, oh wow, but it caught my interest. I was interested in a beginner camera. Okay, well, beginner cameras. Talking about beginner cameras, I started, I guess, what's called a beginner camera and it is CWO 224. It is marketed as a planetary camera, but it serves very well for DSOs too. So I got very nice images, both doing EAA and then saving those raw images and post-processing them. For me, it was super fine. So it's not an expensive camera. It's I think it's around $190. And if you're starting with that, I guess that's something you can afford and see whether you like it or not. And it works fine for me. It works fine for me. So that would be kind of a beginner camera. It's a color camera, and I think they are releasing more cameras now. CWO is releasing planetary cameras, but the 224 is, I guess, I consider it at least for me a nice beginner camera.
Okay. Oh.
Of course, Vicky, you need to use a laptop with it, okay, and the capturing software. So it's not the camera by itself like the DSLRs that are kind of a full camera. You have everything in that in the camera, but these cameras need to be connected to a computer, a laptop, and run imaging software that would capture the images that the camera is getting from your scope. So that's something else you will need, not just the camera in this case. And that's the dog barking on the, hopefully you cannot hear, I have the dog barking there.
I will add, as an alternative to a laptop, I've been using for about a year, another product from ZWO, the ASI Air. It's essentially a small computer in a box that you can connect to an app, and can tell you that works really nicely. It's a nice, simple, easy, streamlined way to control your camera if you can actually find one of them.
Yes, that's an add-on if you want, and it works with CWO cameras only. So if you have a camera from another brand, it will not work with those, I guess. And that's kind of a, yes, it's a kind of a microcomputer, and it does everything on itself. So that's another alternative too.
This is Arif Razak. I've been experimenting with Astroberry simply because I did consider ASI Air, but since they require CWO focusers and everything, I went with Astroberry. What is your experience with Astroberry, or do you know anybody who's had success with it?
Not in my case, since I use just a laptop and I connect everything to the laptop. I know there's a lot of people using Astroberry, and because I read that on Cloudy Nights forum, on the EA forum and EP. So there's a lot of people using it, and it works fine for them. But it's not something that I have used. So I don't have any direct knowledge on that.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. It works some of the time, it doesn't work some of the time. So maybe I'll go ASI Air or something. Break down and change my focuser.
Yeah, I was trying to use Astroberry as well, and yeah, I got stuck in the what's it called, that planetary software, the Ecos or Icos. Yeah, I didn't have much luck using Astroberry, but I'm still trying.
I think eventually I'll get there. Yes, it's Ecos and K-Stars.
Yeah, K-Star, yeah. Yeah, I was having problem to connect to my camera. I use a mirrorless camera, the Canon M50, and I was not able to get it to take pictures properly.
So I saw a question about Mac. There is some software that runs on Mac, but I guess most of the software is designed for Microsoft, I guess. In my case, the software I use is SharpCap, and I have the Pro version that allows you to pour a line and use the brain and all that stuff. And so I do fine with that. I just connect everything on my laptop through ASCOM. That's kind of an umbrella software that connects all the different components and allows them to interact together. So what I do is I have a SharpCap as the image capture, and you can adjust the colors and the whites and the medium levels and everything. You can, that allows you to save the raw images if you want to post-process them later. So you can do both EAA in watching and saving at the same time those images, so you can post-process them with different software later. And I also use Stellarium, so I can direct my scope to the different targets I want to see. And of course, it uses the drivers from my mount, my go-to mount, so everything works together, and that's how I do my AA. And a little bit of AP. As I'm doing EAA, I usually save the images and I post-process them. Unless I see they are nice, as I can see them on the screen, and I just save them as they are, and I keep them like that. But if not, that's what I use. I was wondering who Fuzzy Spot was. Now I know who it is. I saw I saw your picture and your explanation of your rig and everything you have. So it looks great. So there you can see the ACR connected to the scope. So somebody was mentioning that you can also use that to manage all the EAA and the imaging. So that red little box that kind of has a spider web on the side is the ACR.
Yes,
that
and
we're talking about.
actually, I actually hooked that to my home network, and I used 2 Android tablets with it. One Android tablet controls the cameras, and one Android tablet controls the scope. And like someone mentioned, you have to use ZWO software with it. And it turns out the ZWO software didn't have a driver for this Meade LS telescope. So I still had to use Sky Safari to control the telescope. But by doing that, I was also able to mirror the tablet to my TV inside. So this was done for the eclipse so that people could watch it inside without being out at the scope.
That's great. I usually do the same too. Now mosquitoes are not as burdensome as great along the summer, but during winter days that were really cold, I would do that with I think it's with Google, and I would just get the Google Chrome thingy and just manage everything from my desktop. And if the mosquitoes get really heavy, I might end up doing that during summer too. But so far, I've been enjoying the kind of the warm weather with very few mosquitoes. So I enjoy spending time outside and not freezing outside, and just being outside watching the stars and doing EAA. So that's something that can be done too. Yes.
I have a mount question. I know there are many types of mounts out there and many types of modifications for said mounts, but I'm kind of curious if anyone here in the group has done any kind of drive belt modification on their mounts. I do have a kit that I purchased to modify mine. I haven't done it yet, but one day I plan to, but I was kind of curious what someone else's experience may have been for upgrading the drive mechanism for ride ascension and deck.
Well, excuse me, Chris. I wanted you to know, my name's Paul, and I wanted you to know that I came into this like astronomy group just like always little peripheral experiences. And my experiences with these drive mechanisms, I call it I'm thinking about the wheels that I call it, hit the ground. And in my experience, if you can envision like the amount of viewing time that you have in the summertime versus the viewing time in a cold, dark winter, long nights. Well, if you were viewing, you might get a full, say, 1/3 of the way around a circle. And it was always more efficient to continue it. Like, and we were talking about the kind of telescopes, they just happen to be in a, like with a dome. I mean, a good strong, this is holding hundreds of pounds. And it was always just easier to continue the movement. Like if the entire structure is moving throughout the night, well, don't try to move it back and then reposition it for the next night. It was just always easier to continue around. Then you could quite finally get it ready for 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, or 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. I mean, I'm sorry that's not specific enough for you, but I mean, yeah, they had little small servo motors essentially, but the larger motor would kick in for that, for the 5 minutes it would then take to continue all the way around and get ready for the next night. So I'm sorry, that's all I have for you.
So Chris, what you have is a Dobsonian mount, or you have an ALC?
An equatorial.
An equatorial.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's a Skywatcher HEQ5 Pro, so a little smaller mount, but there's a really popular modification out there called a Rowan modification. I think it's a UK company who sells these upgraded parts that just supposed to be a little bit more robust and finely tuned drive system.
Oh, I see. I remember I had my first kind of a mount was it's an Explorer Scientific light one, and I got one of the Celestron kind of motors attached to it, so I could kind of follow the stars as they were moving. By the time I didn't know anything about polar alignment, so I guess it was going around, but it wasn't polar aligned at all. So it was just kind of following something, and then I realized that the best thing is to have a go-to mount with the tracking. So I did a lot of experiments with that. I was super happy when I was able to get a picture with some stars on it. I said, finally, yes. But then I realized that if you don't have the right equipment, you will really get frustrated, because you will not go kind of anywhere, and you will try this and that. But there are some things that are basic, so that you can actually do some EAA and get images if you want to, is to have a kind of a tracking mount, and to have an appropriate scope and the camera that fits that scope. If you want to save time, a go-to mount that will take you to the different targets and plate solve that will solve a lot of problems, and you will save a lot of time and have more time to do watching than finding the different targets. So that's something that to take into account when you're trying to do EAA. If you want to go the other way and just star hope, that's fine too. But you need to be aware that you will spend a lot of time star hoping and getting to the target, and well, if you don't have any tracking, then it will be there for a couple of seconds and it will be gone. So that's what a not tracking mount will provide. You will get a few seconds. You will get a one to a few, depends on the exposure that you're using, but it will not last too much. So Liz, you are shy today. What happened?
I got it on my discussion with this. Yeah. I was gonna ask a question. So at the Texas Star Party, my setup was working pretty good. And so I decided I would focus on going through the two observers list. So there was like a regular and then an advanced. And so I was cooking, Carlos, and what I ended up doing is I would slew to the object. I would plate solve to double check whether I was, well, I'd try to guess, am I on this object or not? Which one is it? Which fuzzy spot, as Joel would say, is it in this picture? And then I would plate solve to see if I guessed right. And then if it wasn't even in the field of view, usually it was nearby. And so I could use the sharp cap thing for objects nearby and get it to slew, use sharp cap to get it to slew to that object, to get it centered and everything. And then I take 5 frames and then I moved on to the other objects. And that was really quite enjoyable in terms of just being able to see a lot of stuff. And I could probably find, I don't know, easily find 20 things in a night and take, a few frames of them and get that done. That was a lot of fun. So I do think if you had, maybe if you had 2 mounts going, maybe you could do a Messier marathon, with EAA in one night. You might be able to do it, especially if you weren't taking frames, if all you were doing was, the annotated, one annotated frame and then move on. I think that would work. But it worked pretty well. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
That's a fair point about using 2 mounts and not taking frames as the key. I can tell you that trying to do that with 2 will make your hair fall out. It's way too much work.
Is it?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering is, can you really manage 2 mounts at once?
You can. In my experience, though, is that, if I want to make one target look nicer, it's very difficult to pay the attention that I need to make sure everything's focused properly, framed properly, capturing properly. Then if you have to manage a meridian flip, there's only so much time to do that. And if they happen together, it's doable, but I definitely don't like that kind of stress level. It's not for the faint of heart.
Well, all I was doing is trying to find the objects, right? So my mission wasn't, to create the most beautiful photograph ever. It was just simply, find the object and verify that this was it. And it was a lot of fun. It really was. But it gave me hope that, yeah, maybe you could almost do a marathon in an evening if you were really good at it. The other thing I did was the Sky Safari. I set up the observers list for that ahead of time. I'm sure I'm not the only person that's done this, but I set it up, but I found that you could sort it based on when that object rises, so you could go through, the list in order as to when it would rise. And you could also watch to see, is something going to set and I'm going to miss it, so it made it fairly doable. I mean, I basically got all the objects, it was like 66 of them done in 3 nights, essentially. Yeah.
Well, you remember when we had the Messier Marathon at the dark side? I was
Yes,
able
yes.
to, I was able to do, I think, like 36 objects, and I wasn't 100% focused on that because I was talking to some members that came to see how EAA worked and what we're doing,
Right.
and then I left at 2 o'clock. So if you focus just on that, I think it's doable. So you
Yeah.
stay the whole night and you go to each target, you take a couple of frames if you want, and then you go to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. I think it's doable, yes.
Yep. Yep.
I
Well,
was,
and Chris, to your point about the focusing, if you have an autofocuser, that would alleviate that issue. Maybe.
Absolutely. There's a
Which
reason
I don't
that-
have. I haven't, I mean, that's like, my husband asked me, well, what's on your list of next things to get? And I said, well, that's probably.
that is an autofocuser has been the single biggest game changer in my experience. I can't imagine going back. It's just so much faster. It's just so much faster and so much easier to take that out of the process and just know that it's going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
It's very, very well worth the investment.
If
Yeah.
you find them, they're that's in my list too. And when you go, it says, okay, mid-April, late April, beginning of May, mid-May, late May. I don't know when they're going to be on stock again, but yes, that's another of that's in my list too. Actually, that was in my list first, and then since I saw that it wasn't coming anytime soon, and I saw the 533 kind of available in cloudy nights, I bought a used one, and I just say I'm sorry until the focuser comes and is in stock again. So I got the 533, and that's what I've been working with, kind of these nights that were kind of clear. And so I've been experimenting with the 533. There was moon, so those weren't kind of dark nights, but the images I was able to get were like the one I think it's on my back were pretty good. So I'm experimenting with that. That's what I remember. I said
Is
that.
that 80? Is that 81 and 82?
Yes. And my
Cool.
head in the middle. Yes.
Yes. So did you do that as a mosaic?
No.
You just had a wide field.
Yes, I was using my 80 ED. So it's an 80 millimeter one, and the 533. So that was I remember I was experimenting with that. And for kind of wider view, I have, you remember, my Skywatcher 50 Evo guide, and that's it's a f4.7, I guess. So it's much faster than the AT, Astrotech AT. That's an f7. So I was doing that, and I also experimented a little bit with guiding. So when we had the moon this past weekend on Friday, I said, okay, I will try a little bit of guiding, since I have the Evo guide mounted on top of the 80. And they say we have moon, so let's try doing that. And it kind of it was kind of crazy at the beginning, with the PhD2, the the lines were going up and down, and it was a little bit frustrating. And I think it was the wind, since the wind, it was a little bit windy. But
Yeah.
on the next day, it worked a little bit better. But since I was only taking 4-second frames, so it wasn't as necessary. So I just kept on going with the go to mount with the tracking, and would plate solve, pause the live stacking, pause it, plate solve, kind of realign and keep on going. So
Yeah.
Carlos, it's interesting you bring up the 533. That's actually the first thing that came to mind for me when someone was asking about a beginner camera. It's a fantastic camera, but the reason I say that is because of the square format.
yes,
It makes framing a breeze. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of framing, and the file sizes are very reasonable. And if there's someone who's just beginning and not used to taking calibration frames, obviously you need to take dark frames because there could still be some dead pixels, but there is zero amp glow from it too. So from a beginner standpoint, it removes a lot of the guesswork and post-processing work.
yes, that's the 533 is my second dedicated camera. So I had, the first one was the 224, and yes, and there's even less pixels and everything. And so it's a small sensor, and it allows you a lot of mistakes. And I got the 533 kind of a month ago, and so it's just starting with it, and I like the square sensor. So I'm looking forward to, I have a similar image than the one you have for your background that I took, very similar to that one with a 224. So I think I had to do 4 panels to get more or less. So it was several nights doing kind of the 4 panels, and then I stitched them together, and now it looks like the one you have on your background. But with a 533, I guess you can just do it in 1 or 2 panels, and you can even do 4 panels, and it will be even larger. But it's much easier than with the 224.
I may have asked this last time. Is anybody using Nina?
I have a Mac, otherwise I would absolutely be using it.
Okay.
Well, I have it too, and I tried it a couple of times. So what I'm trying to do is kind of learn how to do the kind of the sequence take, and I think I did it, but since I'm, when you go from one program to the other and the other, then you end up forgetting what you did in one. And
Yeah.
so I'm just focusing on SharpCap. But the idea is, and since I'm not sure you can, if there's an app in Lina now to do EAA. So you can see each image you take and how it looks like when you take every image, but you don't, I'm not sure you can do EAA.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. I haven't, I was just, I've kind of loaded the software and started going through it a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
But you see, in order to manage each program, it's a lot, because they all have so many variables and things that you have to learn that you never end up kind of, unless you learn deeply how to use each program. There's a lot of different things that they provide you that sometimes you don't even use because you just don't know them. But well, the idea with Nina, yes, was kind of making a sequence of, I don't know, 20 images, 20 frames, then plate solve to see that it was where it needed to be, and do another 20 images, and then kind of doing something like that. But I think it wasn't plate solving, so I didn't have time to figure out why once it took the 20 images, it didn't plate solve and start again. So I just, when you have an idea and you see, I want to do everything, you cannot just spend experimenting because you said, okay, I want to see, instead of trying to fix what's not working. So
that's what the backyards are for. You don't care about the seeing, so you get all the kinks worked out. Yeah.
So well, this past weekend, so I was telling you, we had kind of almost full moon, but I said, okay, I will just try to see if the guider works. And but well, it began with that, But then I kept on, I said, no, now I want to go to different targets. And you start with one, and you begin imaging and looking at it, and then say, oh, I have this other one. And then you see another one, and time begins going by, and it's 2 o'clock, and you see, oh no, I have these things that have appeared from the east, so I can watch this, and then you never stop. So then you have to force yourself to go to sleep because it's 4 o'clock, and you still see, oh, I haven't seen this target since last summer, so I want to say now. So it's kind of a little bit addictive.
Yes. It is a little bit addictive.
And what I was looking at was that some people in cloudy nights are kind of using I have the L-Extreme, Optolong L-Extreme filter, and they're using it to watch galaxies. So I always read that it wasn't very useful for galaxies because, well, it's good for HA, but some of them have a lot of hydrogen. So they were doing, I think, M51, and it looked pretty well, but I think it was like 7 hours of exposure. So I guess next time I will be trying that too, using the L-Extreme, and try to get out of to see what I can get from the galaxies before the season ends. So
I can personally attest to the L Enhance, which is slightly less narrow than the L Extreme. Kind of like your experience, that if you read anything on the internet, it will tell you it doesn't work with broadband. I can tell you it absolutely does. I have shot plenty of galaxies with it, and it's a fantastic option, especially I live basically downtown Houston and do a lot of shooting from here. It does really nicely. Like Carlos said, it takes a lot of integration. I try to get at least 10 hours on targets, and it for sure robs some of the data. But, you know, for people who can't get out to the dark side very often, it's a really good alternative.
Oh, great. So I will go on with that experiment. And well, I think there's new people here. So one of the benefits of doing EAA is that you can still keep on watching with the light pollution we have in here in Canada. I live in it's Cypress, but it's between Cypress and Katy, so it's in the border. But I have an 8/9 border sky here, and so you cannot see visually almost nothing. So it's really polluted. But doing EAA, you can see a lot of stuff, and you can see galaxies, globular clusters, open clusters, nebulae. You can see a lot of stuff that with an eyepiece it's completely impossible to do. So that's why I actually like EAA, since I said at the beginning you can go to the dark side on limited occasions, and when you go to the dark side, what in my case, what I usually try to do is to do visual observing, because when you can see, especially for globular clusters, when you see the globular clusters visually with all the little dots that are there, and so that's something that even the camera cannot catch. So it's a very special sensation when you can see at the dark side what a globular cluster like M13 looks like. And so I try to do visual, but I will be doing EAA in the future too. But here, when you have a lot of light pollution, you cannot see nothing. You cannot see any freaking thing. And when you look at the sky and you're doing EAA, and you can see a galaxy on your screen, and you say, what the heck? I cannot see anything, and there's a galaxy there right away, and there's a globular cluster there. It's there, but I cannot see anything. And the EAA allows you to just watch all that stuff, and it's even better because you can watch it in color. That's something that an eyepiece will, unless you have a very super large aperture telescope, it's impossible for you to see. So you can actually see the real colors of that target that visually you would never be able to see. So this is for the people who are kind of interested in knowing what EAA allows you to do. Is it allows you to watch and observe the objects that are hiding from you in a highly polluted night that we have here in kind of around Houston.
So what you're saying, this is Arif again. So what you're saying is that for highly polluted areas, you do need a filter like L-Extreme or L-Enhance for astrophotography. No? Okay.
No.
So my question is also this, that when it's highly polluted, whenever I try to align and, you know, do the plate solving, it always fails. It doesn't find enough stars to do the plate solving. So I'm having limited success with that, with, you know, plate solving in polluted areas. Is that your experience as well?
I can again, I use the ASI Air. When I polar align, I'm literally pointing straight over downtown Houston. I live just to the south of it. I don't know if it's something that ZWO does in the software, but on my guide scope, I don't have any sort of filter. I cannot see Polaris. I cannot see any of the stars in that part of the sky, but somehow maybe it applies some sort of contrast algorithm to it, and it works. I can't attest to other software doing it, but the ZWO ASI Air does it brilliantly, and enough so to where guiding is really nice with it.
I've used that. I have an iOptron mount, and it has iPolar, you know, and a camera to do the alignment, and it has its own software. And I have been able to do polar alignment. I think the only time I've had real problems is if my neighbor has, you know, their backyard light on, you know, just so bright that
Right.
it really washes everything out. But for the most part, you know, I could probably just pick up the phone and say, hey, turn your pool light off, please. And or if it's super windy and the branches of the trees are moving so much that it thinks that those are stars or something. But otherwise, I can get it polar aligned.
I wonder.
And I'll use SharpCap too. You know, like I'll use the iPolar software with the mount, and then I'll flip over to SharpCap and do it again.
I've always wondered, maybe I should just try it sometime. I mean, it worked. What I have works, so I don't really want to mess with it. But I've always wondered what would happen if I, you know, just sort of figured out a way to put a filter on front of my guide scope, like a little light pollution filter, like a really mild one or something, and just increase the exposure time. Kind of wonder if anyone's tried that.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't try it, but Arif, are you polar aligning visually, or are you doing electronically? How are you doing it?
No, electronically with plate solving. Then
So,
I did get frustrated with it, so I went visual after that, and that's how I'm able to take some pictures, you know. So, but visual alignment is okay, but with plate solving alignment using Astroberry, I'm having a real hard time. So I'm almost on the fence to just, you know, ditch it and go with ASI Air Pro or ASI Air, whatever's available. And so, and also change out my focuser to the ASI version rather than the Celestron. I have a Edge HD8 with a Celestron focuser.
and have you tried, for what I use is SharpCap. So SharpCap Pro has the polar alignment feature. And, you know, with 224, it was a little bit harder because it's a smaller sensor, but the 533 does it super fast. So
yeah, I have a 294 color.
Yes.
And that was going to be my next question, was that, you know, being a color camera, 294, should I have gone with a monochrome? I think this is fine though, right?
Well, yes. So I have color, if you have the time, I guess, to do monochrome and take lots of frames with the different filters and then combining them, and you want to do that, you want to go that way, I think it is much more sensitive than the color ones. The con is that it will take you a lot of time to do that.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to just image and post-process the color image and go much faster and go to another target and do that, so I guess a color camera will be the way. It depends on how much time you want to dedicate to the targets. I guess, Chris, you can add something there too.
Also depends on how much hard drive space you have on your computer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 or 5 times the data.
Okay, yeah. All right. All right. I'll have to figure out what to do. Go ASI Air or stay with this and try out SharpCap. Is SharpCap on Mac?
I don't think
No.
so. No, I think SharpCap is only for, yes. Microsoft,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel like I've seen it for a Mac before. Here, I'm looking it up now.
But
Are you-
perhaps you can use those programs that allow you to run programs with another iOS.
Yeah, it looks like you have to use an emulator.
Oh, okay. Not a dual boot. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it says it's Windows only. We had no plans to create versions for other operating systems. Yeah.
So, yes, Arif, it surprises me that you cannot play solve. So perhaps have you tried increasing the exposure time and the gain until it kind of works?
Yeah, that was my issue with the gain. You know how Astroberry has these really tiny toggles. So, and then the gain was there. And for the longest time, I was using the lowest gain, and it wasn't giving me anything until I finally figured it out and upped it to the maximum gain. So even then, it's not properly plate solving. So I've kind of sort of given up on Astroberry. That's why I asked that question earlier, but anybody has experience with Astroberry. I have looked at Starry Night and other websites, but everybody, and especially YouTube, everybody does it so simply. It's like, yeah, you do this, but it's not like that. And this whole EAA is very frustrating, to be honest, but you have to persevere through it, and that's how you learn.
Eric, are you using, when you're polar aligning, are you using the 294 camera through your 8-inch, or are you using a guide scope and a different camera?
No. I'm using the 294 through the 8-inch. Maybe I should use the guide.
I kind of wonder, because that 8-inch is a pretty
narrow.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if I've kind of had, I don't know if it's too narrow. I mean, just maybe tossing it out there. I will say I've tried to polar align with my guide scopes before and little guide cameras, and sometimes it's too wide. But I've had that issue too with I've got a 115 millimeter refractor, and if I use it with a camera with a really small sensor, it can struggle at times to align, and I do have to switch back to like a guide camera and a guide scope to try to align. So I kind of wonder if it's just maybe too narrow, especially with all this bright light.
Yeah, I'll try that. I have a 120 mm for the guide scope.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I use.
Yeah, because I mean, the camera I'm using is to do the polar alignment. I mean, it's a camera and that for polar alignment, and it's in the mount itself.
Yeah, and I think to Liz's
And
point.
it's very wide. I mean, the field of view is just like huge. I mean, it's some ridiculous number. I can't remember what, but I remember seeing it and it was like, I don't know, 10 times.
So
whatever
Joel is saying that the 094 is not made anymore. So it was the first full frame color camera Sue made. So that might be one of the things. And I remember too, when I tried to polar align and plate solve with my 8-inch, one of my experiments, it was too narrow. So sharp cap didn't work because you need a wider field of view for it to work. But that might be the case. That might be your case. That's why I cannot plate solve, because the ratio or the relationship between the camera and the scope is not the appropriate one. And you haven't got a wider field of view that will allow to plate solve. I think that's your problem.
Yeah, you might be right. I'll give it a try. For the guide camera.
Yes, I remember I couldn't solve. I couldn't plate solve. I couldn't do anything when I attached my 224 to the 8-inch, my Newtonian 8-inch, and I had to kind of plate solve with my 50mm Evo guide that was mounted on top of it. If not, it was impossible. It was too narrow. No, it didn't work at all.
Thanks.
Yes, you see, that's why we have this meeting, because sometimes it gets really frustrating, and you get information and you see that why it's not working. But I think that's your problem. Once you solve that, you'll see that you will be able to plate solve. I think you have a very narrow field of view, and I think neither plate solving program will be able to resolve that. Yes.
Yeah, being able to speak to you all is so much better than reading a forum.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I might hit up some of you if I hit more snags. But right now I've got to try to figure out this, and well, I did figure out the focusing issues as well. I had a whole bunch of focusing issues. It just wouldn't focus, and Astroberry has a focusing routine also that it calculates the HFR half something reflex rate, and what it does is gets the optimum focus point and it focuses for you. I couldn't get that to focus forever, and then finally, like you said, it was the gain. I increased the gain, and wow, it just worked. So one step at a time.
Yes, one of the things that I also figured out is that sometimes it gets so frustrating that you want to say, okay, this doesn't work, and kind of you want to throw everything through the window. But for example, you're kind of a polar alignment, everything goes fine, and suddenly Windows, I don't know why, decides that ASCOM is no longer working, and everything kind of halts, and you have to polar align again and plate solve again and park the mount and start everything again. And it happens 2 or 3 times, and then you say no, and you want to throw everything away. But it takes time and patience, and so and you can do it. So whenever that happens to you, don't just stop walking, take a rest, and say, well, if it works for someone else, it should work for me too. So it's a matter of just attacking each problem at a time. And okay, there we have the dog again. And just not trying to solve everything at the same time, because it will be overwhelming.
Great. I'll probably give ASI Air a try.
I've been a really big fan of it. I mean, I would imagine it's not as customizable as something like Nina. Right now, I don't need that level of customization. It just, it just kind of works. It's got its quirks for sure, just like anything, but ZWO does a pretty good job of updating their apps. And it's pretty easy to use. I mean, if you can use an iPhone, it's really intuitive app. It's got an amazing framing tool that helps out a lot too. Well, I really enjoyed it.
Do you know if they'll support the Celestron focuser? They don't right now, but they have planned to do that.
That's a good question. I know somebody I can ask. I chat with another random group of astrophotographers, mostly based out of over in the UK. I just kind of stumbled across this group and we started this chat. And one of them actually is a field tester for ZWO's products. I can ask and see if I can get an answer on that.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah. Then I don't have to change out all my equipment. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll leave my email in the chat here as well. If anyone's wants to reach out, and certainly reach out to me. That way I can maybe easily find you to give you a follow-up to what I find out from Martin about this.
Sure. Thanks.
Let's see if I can share with you some of the images I took. Let's see, this past weekend. Well, this was on Saturday. I was kind of doing EAA and the moon appeared there. It was around 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock, and I decided to take a shot at the moon to see how it looked like with my 533. So here it is. See if I can. Whoops, there it is. I guess this was my. Can you? I don't know. Can you watch the image? Is it on the screen?
We can
Okay.
see it now.
So I guess this was my best moon picture. And then let's see. I was able to. Let's see what I have here. Oh, this one is an interesting one. It's M59 and M60. So this is M59, M60, and this is the kind of I think it's the supernova 2022, SN 2022. There you can see it. Let's see if I can make it. Here it is. So that little white spot there is the supernova. That it was, I think it was discovered by a Japanese amateur astronomer on March this year. So I was able to to get it there. Oops. And then you see, when you begin getting different targets, you say, oh, I want to see this one and that one and that one, and you keep on going. And then I think I was able to get the, Sombrero, yes. Here it is. The Sombrero Galaxy. And this image is, I just saved it as I was watching it on the screen. So as you can see, it's with display stretch that one of the possibilities you have with SharkCap is to save exactly as seen on the screen. And this is, so no post-processing, nothing. So this is what I was looking at that same time. So let's see if I can. There it is. Oop. And these were, yes, 151 frames. So 604 seconds of live stacking.
It's just staggering.
And again, as I am telling you, this was on, I think it was Saturday night, so we had almost a full moon. So the EAA allows you to do this. That's the kind of the beauty of EAA, that even though you have a lot of light in the sky, you can still, using the right components to observe all this stuff that's there. And yes, and what's amazing is that you watch just with your eyes and said, I cannot see anything, but it's there because my screen is showing what's there. So it's really amazing. And I actually really enjoy just spending time outside by myself on the scope and the screen and the laptop, watching everything that's there, thinking that's a million light years away, and well, the how amazing our universe and the creation is. So
SharpCap will do this live stacking that you can actually see it.
yes, of course, yes. SharpCap is the capturing software, and it allows you to take single images, to take any number of images you want to take, to do live stacking, and at the same time you can save the image as you see it on the screen, and save all the raw frames, the individual images that made up that live stacking, so that you can post-process them later. So it allows you to do everything, yes. And it has several other features too. That's the basic thing it does, but it allows you to polar align. It will allow you to use one feature that's called, it has an histogram and a kind of a brain that will measure the sky darkness or the greens or the blues, and it will suggest you what is the minimum exposure time and gain in order to get the best dynamic range or unity gain for that target, and so it calculates everything and it helps you with that too. So
Okay, I'll give it a try. I'm just downloading 4.0 right now, so on my PC.
yes, it's free. If you want the paid version that allows you to polar align and use the brain or that, it's only, I think, $20 per year. So it's really accessible.
Thanks.
I will let you know that the image behind me is actually from SharpCap live stack.
It's awesome.
And you see it as it's on the screen. I actually process in SharpCap, changing the colors, the blue limit, or the black limit, the white limit, and red, green, blue saturations, and then save as stretched. And this is basically straight out of SharpCap with a little bit of Photoshop processing.
Was this
5 minutes?
Was this a color camera or individual?
It is a color camera.
Okay.
The CWO 6200. It actually came out using a Raza, a Celestron Raza 8-inch, which is an f2 scope type deal. It's actually a Horsehead Nebula, if you hadn't seen the Horsehead at the top.
Awesome picture, really nice.
Joel, you actually have an observatory that's better than many universities here in the States.
Yeah, that is where this setup is at. The Glaza is in the observatory.
Where was this taken at? Was this at the dark side or?
The dark side, yes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yes, I remember when you invited me to your observatory in the dark side. It's like mission control. So I can attest to that. You have everything there.
Are you doing everything remote?
No, I don't do anything remote because I basically just want to get out of the house. So I go and hide at the observatory.
Let me know when you're out there next. I'll see if I can meet up with you, because I'm
Yeah.
sure I can learn a lot from you here.
If you ever see it open, you can come knock on the door because it doesn't bother us.
Okay.
I'm the first one as you're getting ready to leave. So I'm by the bathrooms, the big
Okay.
white one as you're leaving.
Got it.
And behind me now is the mission control.
Yeah.
It was set up for the grandkids.
Yeah. I mean, could you explain the screen, the two screens behind you?
One of the screens is, see the one on, let me think about how to explain. The one in the corner is a
Yeah.
duplicate of a computer screen that has 2 instances of SharpCap running on it. So I'm actually running 2 scopes at once and 2 cameras at once. The screen on the actual wall that's out of the corner is SharpCap. So I have a tablet beside the main computer, which is just a little bitty mini computer that runs the actual mount and tells the scope what to do. And I duplicate that screen up there for the kids so they can look at it and tell where I'm at. And you basically just go and touch the screen and the mount will go wherever you want it. SharpCap is also.
Oh, okay. That screen. That screen.
Yeah.
Boy, I mean, that's what a beautiful, astronomy shack that you have. I mean, it's a lot of time and trouble to set it all up.
It took, I retired about 3-4 years ago. I started working on it probably 2 years before I retired. So we built the thing from scratch.
Huh.
And it took us 1.5 years to actually build the building.
Hmm.
And then, as everybody knows, once you get into this, there's upgrade after upgrade after upgrade.
Yep.
Well, is your telescope, is it directly over your head? I mean, how are you able to clear the horizon from your physical location, wherever you are?
Okay, at the dark side, the way it's actually in a low off
terrain.
terrain. Oh, the dark side's relatively flat, and we're supposed to have a 25-30 degree view from anywhere.
25 or 30 degrees.
Yeah,
I mean,
and,
the horizon.
yeah, and the way I developed the actual observatory, the telescope is on a pedestal or a pier that elevates like 24 inches. So I can actually raise the telescope up 24 inches and be able to see over the side of the observatory. So I can get pretty close to the horizon, looking back to the west. The east, I have more trees.
Yeah, interesting. Boy. Yeah, and I also liked very much the terminology that Cliff used in his recorded presentation, where they talk about what is it, envy, the aperture envy.
Yeah.
Right, it takes over, like you say, endless upgrades. Aperture envy. That's a pretty good expression.
Yeah, I started out with a 10-inch Meade in the observatory on a Meade mount. The Meade mount failed. I switched to a Celestron mount. Then I got a call from someone saying that a 17-inch scope was on Astromark, cheap.
17.
I got it for less than half price, been used maybe 5 or 6 times. had it recertified at the manufacturer, and the upgrade continued.
Oh, oh, yeah.
And then the RASA was added as a need for a wide field. So it's piggybacked on top of the 17-inch.
Okay. Yeah, I see you're getting all of those. Do you,
Yeah.
do you ever, and I'm sorry, one last question. I don't mean to take, do you ever look at other wavelengths other than the I guess they call it, thank you. Any other wavelengths ever, or is that just impractical at this level?
I haven't tried anything other than visual. No, anything. That's all I've ever done. And I don't know if it would be practical with these scopes or not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, for some reason, I always think of the very large array that's over on the west side of New Mexico, that very large array, that configuration. And I keep thinking, I'd like one of those in my backyard. Yeah, very large array. Yeah, one of those. So, no, but thank you for showing us your chat.
That's fine. So any other questions, or does anyone want to see more setups that can be done? Because I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 different configurations I use for EAA.
So what do you use? You said the RASA was one of them. Then you had the 17-inch. Is that an SCT or a DOB?
No, it's a, what is it? Dow Kirkham, an IDK.
IDK.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's made by AG.
Oh, okay.
And it's specifically, supposedly just for astrophotography, but it works for visual also.
All right.
So it's basically it's like a spent cast grain, except there's no front lens, but there's a lens inside it to correct.
Okay, you got it.
And then the RASA, of course, is like a cement cast grain, except it has a lens at the front to correct it as it goes into the camera. That's at the front.
Right. It's just minus the front reflector.
Correct. But there's also a set of lenses put in up where that reflector would go.
Oh, okay. So as far as software, you're using SharpCap. Are you using any other software to assist in, let's say, anything else? I mean, I see that SharpCap supports plate solving. I'm just looking at it right now. And I also see that it does support sequencing, focus assistant as well. You know, I might just switch to this. So, but do you use?
I primarily use SharpCap. I have, what is it? SG Pro running in the background. Let's see, what is SG Pro called in reality? Sequence Generator Pro runs in the background, and it's able to do astrophotography in its own, but all I'm using it for is a pass-through for the telescope at the observatory, because the telescope comes in over USB 3, and it turns out that Sequence Generator Pro has built into it the ability to talk to the scope through an ASCOM driver, but then rebroadcast it out so that Sky Safari can pick it up as a wireless connection. It's one of those oddities I found. But basically, the only thing I'm using for imaging is Sharp Cap. And then for guiding the the MP2 program. Where's it at? I've lost it. PhD2, that's what it is. PhD2 for guiding. And that's at the observatory. When I'm doing just anything else at home, I don't guide. I just, with the Sharp Cap, will align the images for you. So unless you're taking a long exposure, it will stack them together as long as you're fairly well aligned.
You probably don't need to guide. You've got F2, right? So,
well, F2, yeah, doesn't show a lot of problems.
yeah.
But generally, I'm running both cameras at once. So I'm moving, one camera is a 2600, which is 26 megapixel. But on the big scope, there's a 6200, which is 62 megapixel. So I'm moving a lot of data, and the large scope, you start jiggling or moving, it will show the tracking errors.
Thanks. I'll give it a shot with Sharp Cap.
Okay, next meeting, you have to tell us how it went with Sharp Cap.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'll try to make it out there to the dark side sometime. But
Yes, as we talked last meeting, I think we should perhaps set up a day so we can all get together at the dark side and bring our equipment and help each other and set it up and configure whatever needs to be configured so that everyone can live, and whenever you're in your backyard, you can do EAA with no problem. So that should be perhaps something to be done in the future. We can arrange a date and we all meet in a day that most of us can go. Hopefully it's during the weekend. So if somebody's working during the week, like many, we can go during the weekend, but that's something that I think we can do, and I think there's some interest to do it, so we can set up a date and just do it. If the cloud cover helps, or there's no cloud at all, so that would be even better.
yeah, it's the clouds and then also the dew. And so
That too, yes, and wait until you get the mosquitoes.
Yeah, I think they're big enough out there to carry you off.
Mhm. But well, I guess I don't know if anyone wants to add anything or share what projects you have in mind.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much. This was most helpful. I'll continue my quest to get good pictures. Again, it's a very steep learning curve, but I'll get there.
Yes, remember, try to use the software that you know will work. Sharp Cap will work, and I'm sure it will make things much easier for you. And if you see that you still cannot plate solve, then you should look at the camera and the aperture of the 8-inch, because I think it's a little bit narrow. That's the problem you're having. Yes.
Yeah, that's what Chris was saying as well, is the guide camera. So I'll probably give that a shot.
Okay, well, someone wants to add anything? I think it was a very interesting and productive meeting. And it's almost 8:20, so I don't want to stretch like we stretch the images to in post-processing. But if there are no questions or nobody wants to add anything, perhaps we can just meet again next time and share what we have been doing and or our accomplishments during the month that's coming ahead.
Sounds good.
Okay, Liz, you were shy today.
Was I too shy today?
A little bit. I don't know. Something must be making you shy.
I'm thinking about I've got my mount set up out there, and I still have to put some stuff up because I think it's clear outside, isn't it?
Yes, I think now when it's clear, yes. Let me check the radar, the satellite. Yes, but you know what? I think there's some. Let's see. The clouds are there are some clouds there, but I think they are dissipating. So
Yeah.
it might be yes.
Might be a good night.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. I'll have lots of questions next time, maybe.
Okay, great.
We'll see. I might be on a cruise ship next time.
Oh.
So.
Well, you will be watching the stars from there, so that's good.
Yeah. I wish there was a way to, do that. That would be pretty cool.
Although they usually have a lot of lights there.
Yeah, that was one of my comments in the review, because you're in the middle of in the ocean, right?
Yes.
So it's very dark, and if they would just turn the damn lights out, you could really see the stars.
Oh yes, of course, that would be great. Yes. Well,
Thank
then
you.
have a nice trip. So, well, thank you everyone for joining and participating, and I wish you a nice evening and see you all next time.
Yes,
So,
thanks.
thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.